Good evening. My name is Travis. This is Oscar Mike Radio. You're seeing this on September 3rd, 2020. And I'm joined by prior Oscar Mike Radio guests. I've been a guest on his show and he's been a guest on mine. I'm going to welcome back the author, Army veteran, just outstanding professional coach, Ben Biddick of Get Up Nation. Ben, welcome back to Oscar Mike Radio.
Awesome to be here, Travis. Awesome to be back. Thank you so much for having me.
Man, it's really good to have you back, especially at this time, Ben. Before we get into my questions, for people who haven't seen you before on the show, even though I'm going to have the link to our first show together and the one I did with you, can you kind of just tell people your background? Because you have a really hands-on, a journey with your outreach.
Absolutely. Yep. So when I was a kid, basically, when we think ahead to our life and we think, what am I going to do with this opportunity? People say, what are you going to be when you grow up and all this stuff. And kids see amazing things on TV. They want to be an athlete. They want to be, they see these spectacular things happening and these amazing people and heroes that they have out there. And so we're confronted with that question of what are we going to do with this gift of being alive and being aware of it. It's just we miss it. We miss the power of that in itself. And oftentimes we get super distracted and we get irritated by things and frustrated by things. And we don't take the time to actually realize that it is an absolute miracle to be alive and aware of it. So as a kid, I saw a lot of things that were troubling, wanted to do good, wanted to serve others. I had so many good things happen to me and I got confronted with the fact that that's not what everybody has. And so that was very disturbing to me. I had a lot of loving people in my life, and to see other people who were going through worse it's very troubling as a child. And so I just figured, this what I want to do with my life, and having some early, exposure to death and mortality. It was very clear to me that this life, as far as we know, we only have this moment. And there's no guarantee that we get another one. And so if you're going to live your life, you better live it to the fullest. So you better live with everything that you are and make the most of every moment because nothing's guaranteed. And so that just began the journey of, what's most important? Like, really, do I want to make $1 gazillion? What do I do? Why do I want to be, a pro athlete? What is the coolest thing that I could be, the most satisfying thing that I could be? And basically what that comes down to, what I guess in my study and pursuit in my journey, what I really kind of learned was that it's about people, that everything, when you come to the end of your life or when you're around people who are dying, they're not saying, hey, I had $1 gazillion. I had, 3 mansions and they were all awesome. They don't. It's much more raw. We're much more vulnerable. Death is so similar to birth. It's bizarre. And so as I kind of saw that, I was like, well, I think the wisest use of my time is to give a crap about people and to really immerse myself in how can I make people's lives better? How can I have fun with them? How can I, help them out of painful or desperate or frustrating situations? How could I be of help? And so basically it just led to a life of service. So from that point on, it was just largely, how can I help? If there's suffering that's happening, I want to understand what's causing that suffering. What is it that's causing that pain? How do we impede ourselves? How do we impede others, whether we know it or we don't? How do we, stop this, an existence to happen where everybody is flourishing, thriving, and satisfied and filled with a mutual respect, not isolated, connected, and having really satisfying relationships. And not only that, but having a satisfying relationship with yourself, because, to be honest, many of us then throw ourselves into service. As you're, served in the Marine Corps, you have your audience is amazing men and women who have, often served in the armed forces. They put their own life on the line to make a better world for other people. So to understand that, and sometimes we get buried and I'm just going to do stuff for other people all the time, but what about me? And a healthy relationship with yourself is a really important thing. But anyway, I'm getting kind of sidelined into things, but basically my background is, how can I help? How can I serve? How can I make people's lives better in every way? And if I do that every day, then on my deathbed, when I look back, however my time is, whenever that happens, I can look back and all I will see is faces like yours. and faces like you introduced me to Danny Rocco. You introduced me to some amazing people, and it's been fun to come on your show. It's been fun to have you on my show. And, you know, when I look back, I'll think of these moments where we spent, you know, an evening talking about important things and then going out and doing good things to impact people's lives in a positive way.
So one of the things that's central to what your outreach is with Get Up Nation is the concept of resilience.
Yep.
And you know, I bought into that. I got to, you introduced me to, you know, Nick Bennis, Matt Bloom, and Buzz Bryan with their book, The Warrior's Book of Wisdom and Virtue. I didn't get the title right, but I'll have it here in the links.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
The core is about resilience. Mm-hmm. And it just seems to me now that you have to be emotionally drained at some point, because we are in a state, not just the United States, not just our respective areas of the country, but humanity right now is in need of embracing resilience. Why do you think that is? Because, and I'm going to set this question up like this. I think back to World War II and, you know, 60 years ago, where 17-year-old kids were crossing the beach in Normandy, getting shot down B-17s and getting, you know, joining the service at 15. And now we've got 17-year-old kids who, you know, can't deal with other challenges. So first, talk about why we think we're here at this point now, please.
Yep. I think we are being confronted with a largely distracting. So we have a lot of conveniences. We've gotten to the point in our society where, you know, it's not just like a fight or flight anymore. It's beyond just like looking for threats and watching out for lions who are trying to eat us. And when it's not just we're hunting for food and trying to stay warm. We are a very advanced society in a form of conveniences. We have tons of convenience. We have a lot of resources as far as financial. We are extremely innovative. Our innovation is speeding so fast that our lives change so rapidly that it's so easy to be distracted. We have a lot of shiny objects, a lot of ways that we can have convenience in our life. And so I think to a certain degree, we are distracted from some of the core principles of who we are. And now a lot of the change and a lot of the challenges that we're facing, the terrain is not necessarily, you know, land that we're fighting for. You know, like in your comparison to World War II, we were fighting over a concept of, you know, how are people going to be ruled? How are people going to have freedom? Are they going to have, you know, these dictatorships and this tyranny? And basically, you know, we defeated the Nazi Germany. We defeated these really twisted, evil situations, and then basically we gave it all back. We didn't annex Europe. The United States didn't say, well, us and our allies set you all, you know, we saved you all, and now you're you know, the new states in the United States. We gave it all back because we valued more about freedom. There were really core ethics there that were really at the base of our action that says, you know, how do you want to be treated? How can people thrive? What kind of government needs to be there so that people can thrive, and how much government does there need to be? And so, not obviously right now there's lots of debate, lots of animosity. And I think what we're really seeing today is that the terrain that we're fighting for is not necessarily geographic terrain like in the past, where maybe the World War II era, but we're really the terrain that we're battling with is internal. And so what I would say is what we're dealing with here is systems are failing that we relied upon in the past to do certain things, or a system, people who have felt wronged are confronting wrongs at an unprecedented rate. We have the power of the internet where anybody's voice can be heard. Basically, if you have a social media account, you can put something out there, you can make your voice known. And so any systems that have not accounted for this rapid evolution of people's basically the way we communicate. I mean, it's changed rapidly. Every day there's a new app or a new platform that comes out. And I'm not against technology. I'm not saying anything bad about technology necessarily, but I'm saying that we have new ways of communicating happening daily. We have intergenerational strife. So Generation Z and X are frustrated with certain realities in baby boomer generation. Baby boomer generation is frustrated with the younger generation. There are so many different ways that people are having animosity with each other, but we're not really talking or having a shared experience of mutual respect. So largely we can go on our device, and largely I think we're being manipulated to a certain extent by certain powers that be that control how the media is created, crafted, or being shared, or who gets to share and how it's shared. And there's certain powers above, that exist that are, trying to, I guess there's certain profitability that happens when there's outrage funneled into certain media outlets, et cetera. We can all get ramped up and drawn into this emotional terrain of aggression, anger, frustration. Or what we can do is look at what's going on within ourselves, develop an awareness, a self-awareness, and an other awareness of what's happening. How am I being necessarily manipulated? What's healthy for me and what's not? How are these debates happening? Like oftentimes we see on the news, it's the one person here from one political party, and there's one person here from the other political party. They just throw out all their talking points, and they just call each other names. And it's not about progress at all. And so it's very different than saying, this is what the problem is. Well, let's put the problem on the screen, and then let's find as many experts who have studied this and understand it. And then how can we talk out a solution to that? So instead of just basically looking at and that's what I do with my consulting company, basically Ideal State Consulting, is what is the ideal state? What is the actual state? And how do we close that gap? How do we go from what it is now, the truth, the raw, gritty, frustrating, not so pleasant truth of how it is, and how do we get to that ideal state? And then it's just about development. And that's when you build partnerships. And that's when you, instead of outrage, anger, and just calling people names all the time, that's where you develop partners with people who may have been somebody who you may not politically identify with. You may not, share a number of different, beliefs or whatever it is, but you can get towards a solution, and you can actually like each other and grow and teach each other along the way a different perspective as you go to solve the problem. I know, Travis, in the Marine Corps, I'm sure there were people that you dealt with that you didn't necessarily like, but when time came to get something done, you had to work together, right? And sometimes in those situations, we grow in immense ways because we have to deal with people who are different from us. I know, and I don't want to get too off track here, but I think, with the rapid escalation, a rapid innovation, people are getting left behind. People are getting angry and frustrated. They're not feeling heard. They're not feeling as if their voice is being heard at their job, in their families, in government. I don't think people are feeling heard. And so to create, and our media is not making it happen so that we can have an actual bonding, growing experience to identify solutions to problem and then create them together. Largely it's just, this us versus them thing. It's just put out there, and it just spirals us into anger, aggression, frustration. And what we really need is not that. We need, and that's why I'm invested so hard into resilience, because I've seen in a bunch of my service work, I've seen, people killing themselves, people ripping each other apart physically, people killing each other, people in severe dysfunction, people from post-traumatic stress, alcoholism, all of these things. We're destroying each other, and it doesn't have to be that way. It just does not have to be that way. So if we develop these components of resilience, all of these things that they say can't be done, suddenly you realize they can. And the person I thought was my enemy is actually one of my biggest, partners. So that's kind of my perspective on where we're at today.
So one of the things that I get from resilience, or how I classify resilience, is being able to adapt to a situation that's beyond your control. Yeah. So I have to think for you right now, over the last couple of months, because you told me, like, Travis, I'm just busy in a way that I haven't been before. Yeah. Would I be right in thinking that there are many people who have lost jobs, not just lost jobs, or people who've lost family businesses, their entire livelihood, and they're just trying to put food on the table and keep the lights on? If they can do that day by day, week by week, they've won.
Right.
So my next thought here is, don't we have situations where the whole pyramid of self actualization, is breaking down?
Yes.
So that's making it harder to be resilient.
Right.
So what do you tell when someone comes to you and says, I don't know how to deal with this?
Yep.
How do you address that with that person in a way that kind of gives them the mental energy to face life's challenges?
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I orient them to reality that everything changes. The fact of the matter is that, what I'm concerned about right now, in 30 minutes, I may not be concerned about whatsoever, or, there's always changes that are happening. And because it's this way now, it doesn't mean it will always be this way. Then it's a discussion then to see how much pain are they in? What sort of pain is it? Is it long-term? Is it, where are they suffering? Where is that pain? When I talk with suicidal people, when I worked as a crisis negotiator or hostage negotiator, or when I was when I'm doing crisis work, when I'm talking with somebody who is just in so much agonizing pain, they don't know up from down, they don't have, they're just looking for an end to the pain. And that's when they get the thought of, how can I end this pain? And so it's largely opening the door and basically communicating that you care about them, first of all, because that's the truth. Because I don't care who they are. Every person that's alive and breathing, that's, like I said, and I believe it, it's not just some motivational speak talk. It's like, it is a miracle that we are alive and aware of it. That it is a massive opportunity. It is and even at times where things can be, crashing down. So things that we're used to, routines, structures, societal infrastructures, as those things change, then it's an articulation, and it's a, tell me about your pain. Tell me what you think is impossible. Tell me what barrier you're running up against that you can't figure out, that you're just getting to the point where you're just spiraling into anger, where you just are, basically hiding on the floor and in fear and tears, or you're just irritated by something. You just can't figure it out. Like, there's different levels of where people are at with the challenges that they're facing, but it gets real, and it depends on how badly it's affecting them, right? So what have they lost as a result of something? Have they lost their family? Have they lost their income? Have they lost, what is it that's being dismantled in them, and where then is the fear coming from? And largely mindfulness, as I've said, is a huge, something that I have found great comfort in. And many people that I talk with experience it also, especially those who are dealing with post-traumatic stress, is the reality that the mindfulness concept, that the future is not here yet, the past is gone, and this is the present moment. This is truly the only thing that's real. So, but sometimes our mind and frequently our mind is always focusing, especially with military and first responder people who have been in traumatic environments and who have seen combat, or who have even just trained for combat. It's about seeing threats, right? And so running those scenarios through our heads of, before we get somewhere, what are all the things that could go wrong? And so we spend all of our time focused on this future and all these potential scenarios. They call it catastrophizing, right? Where all these things could go wrong. And then we can get so sucked into that we miss this present moment. And we can get so sucked into our head of, well, because I was abused as a child, that means that my future, that I have no future because I have been arrested before, or because I had a heroin addiction and got on probation, have a criminal record, and have all these things on my record. That means that my future is over. But that's not true, because we have this present moment. And if we, like you were saying, if we are alive and breathing, there's still opportunity. And one of the things that and the same with the past, we could be dealing with some of this survivor guilt. A lot of veterans have survivor guilt because something happened where their buddy got hurt, or they feel responsible, or they feel like they didn't do something heroic enough to get the respect that people offer them. they went and they served. They didn't necessarily like storm the beach at Normandy, but they went and they served. And so they don't feel necessarily that they deserve a bunch of accolades. So there's a lot of things going on internally, especially with people who have been in traumatic environments or violent environments, or who have tried to be ready for those situations. So it's very difficult for us to get out of our own heads. And sometimes we get caught in the past and we're just mind by it, can't go. But it's the same thing. Instead of being sucked into a scary future or a horrendous future that isn't even here yet, it may never even happen.
So how do you get that person to get out of that mindset, or maybe not get them out, it's not the right word, but guide them in a different direction? Because they're coming to you for help. You can see the problem, you diagnose the problem now, and you know where they have to go. They're living in the past, or they're not scared of the future, but they're apprehensive about the future. So you're trying to get them to deal with the present right now. How do you unlock that in them?
Yep. There's a number of techniques, and I would highly recommend, I'm no guru. I'm no like super, ninja. I've never spent, 20 years in a monastery or anything like that, but you don't necessarily need to be some sort of ninja master, to basically follow your breath, to just take a moment to take a deep breath and pay attention to everything you feel, the tingling in your toes, the pressure you feel on your shoulders from maybe you were carrying a backpack earlier in the day, your shoulders sore, maybe you have arthritis, you feel a little bit of pain. You just focus on those sensations in the now, and then you can do various grounding exercises where you can focus on your breathing, or you do what's called a body scan where you can put yourself in that present moment. But then you recognize also, and if you can visualize it like this, your thoughts and emotions, they come and they go, right? So as you take your deep breath, you'll notice that your mind will start jumping around, and I got to do this, I got to do that, I can't sit still, I got to all that stuff. What about all this? And then it becomes this thing where you just take joy in finding this present moment. Like, this is so cool for me. Like, I'm talking with you. We're here. We have never met in person. We found, we are doing things for veterans together. We're grieved by suicide. We want to stop bad things from happening. We want to have, like Oscar Mike, you talk about, this is where your voice can be heard. These good things, like how satisfying is that right now? And so that is a thing that I'll work. It's a gratitude practice. It's something where we talk with somebody who's like spiraling in those ways. Okay, now you'll realize, okay, now I'm here to listen. Now you get it all out and you realize, well, 10 minutes later, I've wore myself out. Okay, so I'm so angry about it. Okay, tell me about your anger. And these people do this, and I hate this, and this is an F these people, and blah, 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 and I don't understand, and nothing, It's like, are you okay? So get it out. And here we still are. And your anger comes and it goes. Your thoughts, they come and they go. So it's very comforting. It's like coming to shore. It's like the waves on the shore that just keep coming. But you are strong enough to say, oh, well, I can step back, and these waves of emotion, when I get, triggered by something, where I see some act of violence, or I see like first responders and military people, sometimes it's hearing screaming. Sometimes it's seeing blood. Sometimes it's a smell or something awful. You see, all these awful things. You did CPR on somebody, and a sound about that strikes you. You smell something from a scene. And all of these things can suddenly jolt you, and you're flashing, or you're going through these things that you've dealt with before. But then if you take that moment to breathe, and if you have that in your tool chest. And sometimes, certainly that's not always good enough. Sometimes people need therapy. Sometimes people need to get some support. Sometimes they just need to go talk to a friend. Sometimes they need to just get out of the environment. Whatever it is, there's a variety of things. But to come back to that present moment and realize, I'm here now. And I am so grateful. Look, and when we're negative, it's like this inertia that goes, and we're like in it, and right. And sometimes it's kind of pleasurable to get all caught up, and you get your adrenaline up, and you're getting, hate and anger is a very motivating thing. I mean, that is how many changes are made, is people manipulating you and letting you know how good it feels to hate somebody, to blame somebody for your problems, all the suffering that you have. It's their fault. It's their fault. And then that becomes a very awful and frightening reality when you have people buying into that, and then you get into like scary societal situations. So to take people away from that manipulation and that exploitation, and to say, you may have those feelings, but those feelings don't own you. And you don't need to blame anybody else for them. This is just the reality of the human condition. Let's learn and grow from this so that we don't escalate to the point where we're harming other people, we're getting arrested, we're getting shot at, we're trying to, let's let the violence go. Let's gain a deeper perspective within of who we are, of how we may be manipulated by certain powers that be, and how we can have gratitude for all the amazing realities that are here, and where is the opportunity. So it's a huge thing when somebody realizes, okay, I lost my job. I don't know where I don't have health insurance. I don't know where I'm going to do any of this stuff. I'm scared, right? I'm scared of this future. I'm scared of all the awful things that could happen. What if my kid gets diagnosed with diabetes tomorrow? What if I get in a car wreck? I don't have health insurance. What if, and I don't have the skills for this tech related world. If you're an older person and you're scared, you got laid off and you don't know anything about apps and iPhones and all this stuff. But if you focus on gratitude and you focus on saying, okay, I have all of these things, and certainly my thoughts and my emotions will spiral. But if I can step back from that, and then I can ground myself in the reality of, I have amazing friends, I have a family, I have enough money in the bank, or whatever it is. Look, do a survey of all the realities, or you don't have this disease, or you have legs that work, or whatever it is. If you go through these gratitude practices, you start to see what you have, and you start to be geared to the fact that, okay, this is a challenge. It doesn't mean it's going to be like this forever, because everything constantly changes. And it doesn't mean that I'm a failure, because I'm still here. And you know what? I have an opportunity to grow, and I may not get health insurance tomorrow, and it might not be easy. And nobody's going to wave a wand and give it to you, or this or that. But sometimes people do. And sometimes you find things within you that you never knew you had, because you got kicked in the nuts, because life came along and leveled you, because you got diagnosed with it, because it's not somebody else, it's you, and it's your kid that has to deal with this. And we often get this message that to be successful, you got to have $1 million, you got to have Jennifer Lopez as your girlfriend, you got to have a Maserati in your garage, and you got to have, but that is not success, in my opinion. Success is being able to value the people in your life, to do good for others, to experience the glory of other people. Like, I love working with dementia patients. That is one of the most amazing experiences I have ever had, when people's minds are starting to shift and they're not able to relate to you. And so even the most minute little bit of conversation that you have, where they say a word you understand and where you say a word they understand, that creates the most profound glory of being able to communicate with somebody. Like, all the things that we take for granted, like we're on here with all this technology and we're having this talk, and we'll continue to talk about all these concepts and things like that. But what if you and I couldn't even understand what the other person was talking about? We'd be staring at each other, but to find, like, people who would speak different languages and suddenly they're able to understand each other, how that just changes the entire dynamic. And you're like so thankful. You're like thinking of, look at this person that I'm connecting with. I can share something about what I feel. They're sharing what they feel, and we're friends. We become friends during that situation. So orienting each other to these basics, and then empowering people to say, okay, well, we're real good at saying everything's going to hell. We're real good at identifying. It's actually part of how the brain works to try to protect us. We see the negative, and then so that we can get a plan and be prepared to respond in case, right? And so our brains actually do this for us. They are skilled to see the negative. But when you train your brain to not just see those threats, but to also see all the positive and amazing things that are happening around you, the threats get smaller. You start feeling more powerful. You stop being mad at things you can't control, and you realize all the things you can do in response that nobody can take away from you, that it's just yours. You can have skills and tools to get up, to say, okay, well, everyone else is doing this. I can't control that, but you know what? I can bring a meal to the person in my neighborhood whose kid has cancer. And that makes me feel good that their suffering is eased a little bit tonight. And I can do not just do that today, but you know what else I can do? I can, listen to Oscar Mike Radio, and I can connect with other veterans in my community, and I can get involved, because I don't want any veterans to take their own life, because it's happening all over the place. And so there are things that I can do, and I may not be able to solve, questions about universal health care or affordable health care, and I may not be able to make, foreign policy work a certain way, but you know what? I can work with my local school district to help a poor kid eat who can't go to school right now because of COVID-19. I know I can take, there are things that we can do. And pretty soon the world that you see is dark and awful and scary and twisted and violent. You start saying, oh my gosh, well, the world right in front of me has opportunities left and right for me to impact people's lives. And I'm going to grow in that. I'm going to get bonds with them. I'm going to have true community, and we're going to overcome challenges face to face today.
So one of the things that when we first talked, your outreach was still but get up.
Yep.
You had written your book about the baseball player who had gotten, hit his first game out. You were getting going, and it was get up. And then since we've talked, you have really transferred this to the concept of Get Up Nation, which in a way really applies to our country right now. We need to get up as a nation. So I would have to think, in some ways, your outreach is growing this nation of people who have embraced resiliency, who understand mindfulness, and are seeing that work in their lives, and they're spreading the word. So how has that been for you to be a part of this in their discovery, but also your own growth?
That's what feeds me. It's what gives me life. It's it's fuel for the fire within, we say. And I don't want to be gimmicky, I have a podcast, I have a book, and I want to sell copies of my book, and et cetera, and all that stuff. But it's bigger than that. It's so we talk about, it's a global network of resilient people who are committed to creating profound, positive change and legacies of profound, positive impact. Like, seriously.
Well, the reason, the reason I bring that up is, and we talked about this last time you were on, is a lot of times people like yourself with your kind of message, veteran, have a hard time getting his word out there with I'm not disparaging anybody, but there's other people that do their thing and gets a lot more views, press, whatever you want to call it. Positivity never really sells, but negativity does.
Yep.
But I've always been impressed by, you've taken this positive thing, wrapped this nation-like surge behind it, and said it can work if you embrace it, and people are. Mm-hmm. So that's a really different, thing that I've seen, that we need more of it. And so I'm just, again, I mean, you've kind of been answering that before I interrupted you just now, but how has that been like for you to see that take root and take place?
Yeah, I'm honored to do this. Like, people come on my show and they talk about their adversity that they've experienced, whether it's, soldiers or Marines or airmen or seamen getting, going, or Navy SEALs going to,
or even civilians you've had on
combat. Yep. And I mean, to hear their stories of combat, but then to hear, like we just had the Happier Hustle, Casey was just on here, and she survived cancer. And we have Leah Saragusa. We have all these people. So there are some like celebrities who've been kind enough to come on the show and talk about the things that they're promoting and things like that. But what I really truly love is talking with, a cancer survivor or a human trafficking survivor come on and talk about, or people who have endured child abuse and have survived that and gone on to do amazing things. You span the network of people. Basically, whatever adversity you've been through, you have an opportunity for resilience. And so whatever adversity is out there, so we have it, whether it's cancer, whether it's combat, whether it's child abuse, whether it's post-traumatic stress, military sexual trauma, poverty, addiction. There's tons of people who have come on and just shared their story of adversity. But what we find, and that's what I am very proud of, is people of every race, people of every gender, people of every background, socioeconomic background, religious background, people who come on this show. And I love looking down the line at all the different faces and shapes and colors of people who come on and they talk about their adversity and they tell their inspiring stories of going through hell and what they experienced there and what they learned from it and where they are now. And I just hope that, and I just hope that when people are in their dark moments, and I don't care if I reach 1 million people or I reach 3 people or anywhere in between that, as long as those people in those moments, in that darkness, find it. And as long as they can hear that voice of somebody who has been through a similar thing, so they know they're not alone. So the pain that they're feeling, they understand suddenly there's other people out there who have this experience as well. It's not just because God hates me, it's because this is the reality of what the human condition is. And like I said, true success is somebody who, in the agony of their bed, fights on another day. Their hand is held. They find solace in a voice on a radio or an app. And they find people out there who are saying, get up. It's okay. It will not always be like this. It will not always be like this. African-American men who are frustrated with the systems that are out there and violence in our communities, and first responders who are also frustrated that care about people that risk their lives every night. First responders that are going out there, ER staff that are, young men and women who are going to work every day scared that they're going to contract COVID and bring it home and affect their own families while still serving their communities. Like all of the things that are happening, we are not enemies. We are not enemies. We're human beings that suffer. And if we can and I don't care if the media gets it, and I don't care if there's 1 million followers, like I said, or 3, as long as when I was here, I created content that brought solace to people who are suffering and that guided them out of agony, then that's a win. That's success. I don't care if I ever make $1 million. But I do care if somebody plays Get Up Nation when somebody's, drinking themselves to sleep with a gun in their mouth and they're considering, ending it all. And they hear somebody on that show say, I was there too, and don't do it. And they set that weapon down. Then that's success. I don't care what anybody says success is. That is, for me, that's what it is.
No, I certainly, understand that. And you don't have a lot of followers. You don't have a lot of views. You're not, but I don't care about any of that. I care about the number one. All I want to know is, did I affect one person's life in a positive way? And that's hard to do on a good day. I mean, I use the analogy of the cat video. I said, cat videos can get, 200,000 views in a couple of days. They make people smile for a while, but I'm not trying to be a cat. I'm just trying to tell you there's a way out if you want to.
Yep.
During this time, you're working. There's a lot being asked of you because people are coming to you for help. Mm-hmm. Just briefly, how do you recharge your batteries when the energy is hard to find some days?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a practice that, like I said, a mindfulness practice. So I practice meditation. Music is big for me, but doing this, man, this is in writing projects, communicating, talking with you right here, sharing positive content and talking with somebody and just putting it out there. And regardless, that's what recharges me. I guess I try to be disciplined of growing constant. Like I don't know if I have ADD or not, but I'm constantly interested in things. So I just constantly learn and seek, because the more you learn, with the goal of that learning connecting you with people, then it's like this awesome, never-ending growth process. Because whether, no matter what it is, if whatever you find interesting, I would just encourage anybody out there, if you're struggling with resilience, I would just, with not being resilient, I would just encourage you, like, what is engaging to you? What, is it, whatever it is, whether it's like what's your thing? You find butterflies fascinating because they are, and you find that, and you read 17 books a month about how a chrysalis is formed and this and that, and how this creature makes that transformation, and what that means for not only our ecosystem, but for human beings and certain plant species. Like, whatever engages you, I don't care what it is, fishing, whatever it is, if you I believe there's a reason for that, and if you grow into that, that will awaken you. But it doesn't just awaken you to something amazing and awe-inspiring in our world. It will open you to other people who have that same interest and how people are affected by it. So it will basically grow you. The way I look at it is, those things are there for a reason. It'll grow you. It will take you into a place where you are awe-inspired at being alive, where anger can't touch you for long because you're so engaged by the positive, amazing things in our world that you feed yourself in that way. And so when I see people doing that, or I help them do that, that feeds me. And then I'm super inspired by the people that I meet because they're doing all this innovative and cool work that you're seeing things as they've never been seen before, or as you've never seen them. And so little things that we take for granted suddenly become this deep wealth of, oh my gosh, that's ultra interesting. And I could spend all night listening to this person talk about this thing that engages them. So that's how I keep my fire going when I'm what I've just talked with. Like,
So it really is. It really is. You attract what you project. And if you're at peace with yourself and you're curious about the world and put that energy out there, you're going to get the same in return.
yeah,
If you put out negativity, hatred, and anger, you're going to get that in return.
you are. It'll
Negativity.
get bigger. Absolutely.
So as we're shutting down, man, I mean, this time, folks, just flies by. It's just really, really great. We could talk, all night, Ben. What do you have on tap? What's next for Get Up Nation?
Yep. Let's see. So we have some awesome guests coming up. Yeah, okay. So you could go to getupnation.com. You can subscribe there. We have premium memberships available. I think it's about $25 a month. You can get a bunch of exclusive premium content that will help you develop resilience if that's what you're interested in. But the podcast is free. You don't have to, you can listen to every episode from episode 1 to, I think we're at 137 or around there now. So all that's free. And ultimately at the end of the day, what I want is for you to check out my content. You can subscribe to it for free. You don't need to do the premium membership if you don't want to. You can access our book. The audiobook just came out of Get Up, The Art of Perseverance. It's one of the most unique stories in Major League Baseball. Adam Greenberg got struck in the back of the head with a 92-mile-an-hour fastball in his first plate appearance. And has an amazing story of getting back to the big leagues. Really, really quality, high integrity person who just has a profound story. So you can get copies of that book. You can get videos about that. I have another project that will be coming out spring 2021. I can't talk in too much detail about that now, but it's coming. Let's see what else we got going. You can always...
You got coffee too. You got coffee and some kind of vegetable stuff. Like I saw greens.
Greens, man. Yeah, we got. I love my fellow veteran friend of mine, Eric Hadley. He's a Navy veteran, CEO of GotYour6Coffee.com. He is an amazing person doing good work in his neck of the woods. And that's my official coffee of Get Up Nation right there. But then, I grow microgreens. I grow vegetables and have herb cilantro, basil, all sorts of herbs that throughout the winter here in my area. I live in the Wisconsin area. And so bringing people nutritious herbs and microgreens, which is it's basically the early form of the vegetable that often it grows like this big. You can look it up, microgreens, but basically the nutrition in that plant, when the plant is only 1 to 3 inches tall, the nutrition in that plant is often more intense in that form than to wait for the vegetable or the fruit to actually grow. So if, for instance, you eat kohlrabi or you eat broccoli, sometimes with the microgreen, you get much more, like exponential amounts of nutrients in eating the microgreen when the plant is very young than waiting for the fruit to happen. So basically, throughout the winter, I love growing herbs. I love growing microgreens and healthy vegetables for people. Have subscriptions so people can get those weekly delivered to them throughout the winter months. I love bringing people fresh produce in the middle of the winter in Wisconsin winter when it's nutty. But so those are some of the things that got going. Just happy to be here for anybody as they're going through some stuff. We're happy to be a resource. Want to send some positive content your way. Just join our network. If you're looking to do some good, get inspired, join us. I'm not like necessarily a motivational speaker type guy, but I am just driven to like, let's do some good now and make it happen. If that's inspiring to people, great. But I'm not going to like fire you up for 5 minutes and then walk
No,
away.
folks, and I'll have all the links to Ben's, content in the show post for this podcast and video, so you can check it out. I do from time to time, Ben, and I'll close with this. I do from time to time because I'm not perfect, and sometimes I can get very frustrated. Sometimes life is just throwing curveballs, literally, and I'm like, oh my God, I mean, how in the world is this going to work? And between that Warriors Work of Virtues and your show, sometimes I get the little mental boost that I need, and so I'm trying to say, people, is it works. It works in being part of the nation. Ben, I'll close with this on my end. You're not alone.
Right.
So I really want to drive that home, and I just think the work you're doing is needed now more than ever. And I can't imagine some of the things you're having to deal with as a result of, we got this pandemic, we got the unrest, we've got the, the racial stuff going on right now. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
I can't, I don't even want to, it's just, I can't, it's like a slippery slope. So
Yeah.
your work's important, and you certainly, if my word means anything, you made a difference in my life. I appreciate that, brother.
And that's an honor. That makes everything worth it right there. And I just appreciate you and your friendship. I appreciate what you do for this veteran community. And it's great to I benefit as much from Get Up Nation. It's so satisfying to me, and it's so satisfying to hear other people benefit from it too, to help me know that there's other people out there. And so it's very encouraging to me to hear you say that. And I'm just honored that you're a part of it. And thank you for this opportunity to come and share a little bit of my experience with your network and your audience.
Hey, so this is number 206 shutting down. Of course, we're going to have Ben back on. It's without question already. Hope your Labor Day weekend is safe and happy as we end summer, unfortunately. But as we say at Oscar Mike Radio, mission in flight. Ben, thank you so much for coming on my show. I really enjoyed it. And folks, check out the links to all his content everywhere, and be a part of the nation. Thank you.
Thank you.